I'm obviously self-critical. I think that might be a 5 trait as well, because we might hold ourselves to higher standards, um, and kind of beat ourselves up when we're not as capable as we want to be or as competent as we want to be. Um, but as far as finding ways to circumvent those self doubts, I think I'm still learning.
Us off. Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Answer the Call podcast with the Called Career. As you know, listener out there, we are working through a series right now talking about the different Enneagram types, the core fears with those Enneagram types, and how that incorporates into our career specifically. And we've had a special guest for each type. This week is no different. We have a special guest, my friend Jaron. So thank you for being here. If you want to say hi real quick before I start rambling on and on and on, I'll let you do that.
Hi, Audrey. Excited to be here.
Good. I am so grateful that you're here. And Kelsey and I also joke about while our client base we have is really pretty split 50-50 male female, we are obviously two women who are on this podcast, so we have a lot of girly conversations. So we are always so excited when we have a man join us to just be able to speak to the other part of our client base and bring other perspectives that sometimes Kelsey and I aren't able to have. So thank you
Nice.
for being here. I'm
Yeah, well,
excited.
here I am.
Yes.
The man's man. I'm here to here to be a part of it.
Amazing. Okay, so if you've been keeping up with the series, we are now at our Enneagram 5. So I knew right away when Kelsey and I were brainstorming guests, I was like, I know Jared's a 5. And I'm excited to talk to him today. So I am going to read you listener, and then also you, Jaron, the type 5 description from my nifty little book here. And then I'll also read the basic fear and the basic desire from the type 5. And then we can talk about, we'll just dive right into that. So the type 5 is titled the investigator, which is the intense cerebral type. 5s are alert, insightful, and curious. They are able to concentrate and focus on developing complex ideas and skills. Independent and innovative, they can become preoccupied with their thoughts and imaginary constructs. They become detached, yet high-strung and intense. Sometimes they really go in on these descriptions. They typically have problems with isolation, eccentricity, and nihilism. At their best, healthy 5s are visionary pioneers, often ahead of their time, and able to see the world in an entirely new way. And then basic fear is the fear of being useless, incapable, or incompetent, with a basic desire to be competent, and that can deteriorate into useless specialization. I know that's a lot, and sometimes that can feel like a little bit of an attack, but I want to know mostly, like, from everything that I just said, what resonates with you and what doesn't resonate with you from that.
Yeah, this is why I love the Enneagram, because I mean, every time I read anything about 5s, I'm like, oh, that's exactly right. And I know the point of it's not to get stuck in the fears, but yeah, for sure. A lot of the times, the biggest thing that you can do to make me mad or upset is to tell me that I'm not doing something correctly, or I can't do something correctly. So for sure, that fear of incompetence and wanting to be capable of doing anything and everything, that's right in the sweet spot. That's where I live. So I'm always trying to improve, so I don't have to feel that fear, of being incompetent. So
Yeah. So how have you seen that come up specifically in your career?
sure. So I guess it would just be constantly trying to improve professionally as well. Trying to, maybe this certification will make me look, a little bit better. And maybe, I'll take multiple classes that, have nothing to do with what I'm doing, but maybe in the future it'll make me look good, and that it's something else to prove that I'm not incompetent, that I'm able to, succeed in any area that somebody needs me to succeed in, I guess.
Okay. Wait, go ahead.
No, yeah, I think that's it.
That's the reason I wanted to jump on that is because I think that is going to speak to a lot of people, because I hear people all the time in our very first consultation call through most of our clarity calls, talking about going back to school and, oh, I need to do this course. I need to get this certification. I need to do this degree. And we're kind of anti that. Not completely anti, but we like to, exhaust all the options, especially before spending any money on something like that.
For sure.
So do you find that in your type 5-ness that you are quicker to jump on an opportunity like that because it does prove some competence?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the amount of times that I've looked at master's degrees and just been like,
Yeah.
maybe this will help,
Mm-hmm.
But I know so many people with master's degrees who, would struggle to find a job or were in the same position that I was in when I was looking for work. So yeah, I know that, yeah, I gravitate towards that. Well, I can learn everything from a book kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll find all the answers myself, and, that'll make me look good and make me look smart and capable. So yeah, for sure.
Wow. Oh, that's so interesting because I'm also thinking about the people who we work with as clients, and I can spot the ones really easily because I'm a one. I can spot the
Mhm.
fours really easily because Kelsey's a four. And I have a harder time spotting the five. I think I just have more to learn about the five, but I also wonder if it's maybe that idea of, well, I can learn this, I can do this, that kind of might steer you away from something like coaching and more towards something that is a little bit more of a personal track, like a class or something. Does that
Right.
resonate or?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you hit it in the beginning. You said we're independent and introspective.
Yes.
That is 100% true. I think so if you're looking for a five, you might not be able to find them because they're not going to want to talk to you. They're going to want to stay in their own little world that they've created in their head. At least that's true for me. So
Yes.
yeah, if there's a problem in my life, I'm definitely going to take the independent route and see what I can figure out on my own before I take any kind of coaching. Um,
Interesting.
and it's not that I'm anti-coaching. It's just that's not going to be my first look. I'm not going to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, okay. I have so many questions. Um, because there's so many different ways that we could go with that. But I'm wondering, like, bringing it back to the cer- certifications or degrees, kind of being tempted to do something like that. Um, how do you fight against that temptation to go back and get the degree or do this? Because I mean, if we gave into every single temptation to like take the project management course or whatever,
right.
you'd be out lots of money, I imagine. So how do you kind of fight against that or find other paths around that?
I don't know if I'm, through that because I have the project management certification, Audrey. I took that class. I have that certification,
Oh,
and
that's so
I'm
funny.
not in project management. um,
Oh my gosh, that is so
so
funny.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, you can find them anywhere. So Google has, their
Mhm.
own certifications that I've taken. So they're on my resume, but who's to say if they do any good? Um, yeah, I think for me, it's just money and time that keeps me from
Mhm.
doing that. Because it's not that I, you know, feel like that's my only option. It feels like that might be my best option, and I mean, I love to learn. Like
Mhm.
we are the investigators. We love to investigate. We love to figure things out. So sometimes it's fun for me. So I'm not actively trying to avoid it.
True. Yeah, and I mean these days, and I'm sure you've could speak a lot to this. Like there is just so much opportunity to learn through YouTube and free things and
Oh yeah.
just all of that you can find. I'm interested to hear about the if there's tension in the place of doing this all on your own. And we've talked about coaching a little bit, but I think mentorship would be something interesting to talk about. And do you, because that's also another great way to learn, find somebody who did exactly what you want to do and just copy what they did. We talk about that all the time, and it's such a valuable resource. So, is that something that you kind of have to fight against because you're more tempted to do things on your own, or have you gotten a lot of value from mentors in your life?
Yeah, well, if a mentor, I think, finds me, then
Mm,
that's where I love a mentor for sure. I've had great mentors, um, but if it's me stepping out on a limb and seeking that mentor, then it's going to come a little bit more challenging, for me to do that. Like my previous job, it was a dream role for me. It was a contract position though, so it
mhm,
wasn't going to last. And they set up a mentorship program for that, so they could talk to you about your next steps, and it's a seasonal gig, so you might come back next season, whatever. Um, and I didn't take part in it, and everybody in the on the same level as me, or doing the same job, they all did it. They were like, so who's your mentor? And I was like, I didn't know that was something that everybody was going to do, because for me, I don't it might come with being an introvert as well. I don't want to strike out on I'd prefer to keep it to myself. I don't want to strike out and meet somebody else if I don't absolutely have to, if they're not
mhm,
directly involved in my job. um, but yeah, now looking back, like that would have been so valuable. Like
mhm,
after that contract ended, I could have used some kind of advice from somebody who'd been in that exact same position.
mhm.
um, but yeah, it's just not something that I seek out, I guess.
Yeah, so it sounds like advice to your younger self or advice to fives in general is to kind of fight against that urge sometimes to do everything on your own and really take part in the mentorship programs or coaching,
Yeah.
if it's something that's available to you. Do you find that being more introverted and I want to say this kind of with like take this with a grain of salt, um, but being introverted and being a five kind of go hand in hand?
I think so.
Mhm,
um, Everything that I've read about being a five, I would struggle to find a five who is an extrovert.
mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I'm not an expert. I just know me.
Yeah, your own experience.
Right.
Yeah. I'm still thinking about what you said a little bit earlier of like good luck finding a five because they're probably doing something on their own. Um, what do you think? This is kind of a corny way to ask it, but what do you think about like the superpowers of the five? Like what makes fives kind of different from like why would should somebody hire a five?
Hmm. That's a good question. um, I mean, problem solving in and of itself is like, you could put that on your resume and be like, anybody can say they're a problem solver, but fives, we investigate, the source of the issue. We, investigate all the different options we have to solve that problem, and then, take the best one. So I think, like in a generic sense, it'd be problem solving. But I I look at fives as selfishly the best, the best type.
Yes.
I like being a five,
Mhm,
but I think that is a part of being a five. Is we like I said, we have our own little world,
mhm.
and we think that that's the world that is the right world and everybody should live in.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so I don't know if that's probably just me, uh, as a five, saying that yeah, fives would be really good to work with,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
to hire, but it might not be true. It might just be my rose colored glasses as a five.
mhm. No, I think it's absolutely true because I'm thinking about um, the problem solving element that you talked about, but then also the name of the five being the investigator, where having somebody, hiring someone and being able to trust that they're going to do all the research they need to either solve the problem or present the case or whatever they need to do. Um, that's huge. And just knowing it sounds like fives are really good at um, how do I put this? The well-rounded part of an issue, like not getting like figuring out everything they can about the problem so that they can solve it.
Hmm.
And I think that's really a very valuable person to have on your team. Um, would you say the same?
Yeah, they're gonna come up with something that you didn't think about, I think.
Mm.
um,
Oh, cool.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So if they've seen everything from all angles, then A lot of the times you just, overlook something. I mean, I'm not like the most detailed oriented person, but the details come with the nature of being this type.
Mm-hmm.
You're diving into it more than the average person, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. And I also think my little tidbit of information I always keep with myself about fives that I've noticed in my own life is that, and I've noticed it with you too, they're going to be the person where we're all talking about something, wondering about something. They're going to be the person to look it up on their phone and find the answer and be like, oh, no, it was actually in 1964 that blah, blah, blah happened. Does that ring true? Is that a accurate quality of a five?
yeah, I need to know everything. I definitely need to know even the most, useless
Yeah.
information. I have to know it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's what makes Jaron a good trivia partner.
Yes. And yeah. And that's the other thing is if you call Fives trivia skills into question, then they're gonna get upset.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they have to I have to know everything. And if you tell me that I don't know this category or whatever, I'm gonna show you that I do. And then
Oh,
I
interesting.
might not.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually brings up a good question when I'm thinking about people moving through their careers and something that is important to pay attention to in your career, especially as you're working with other people, is kind of sensitivity points or maybe just like uh, things that you might be more sensitive to. So, as a five, if somebody's working with you or you're working on a team or maybe your boss, you're having some communication about how to best work together. What are some of those sensitivity points that you might bring up or when talking to another five and giving them advice, like what makes what I can't think of the word that I'm looking for, like a sensitive to the touch kind of thing.
Yeah, for fives, like
Yeah.
for us.
Mm-hmm.
So don't, operate this way
Mm-hmm.
when you're working in a team with us, that kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Okay. Um, yeah, I don't know how to say the same thing without not or without saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that we don't I don't prefer to work in teams. I'm gonna get the objective. I'm gonna get the task or whatever, and I'm gonna go do it by myself. And if I do have to work in a team, I'm gonna be more reserved, and I'm gonna watch how other people are, doing it until I'm absolutely needed. Then it's like maybe try it this way, that kind of thing. Or I don't know how to sound generic, how to not sound generic when talking about this. You know what I mean? But I don't know if any of that makes sense.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think we can be kind of cold, I think,
Yeah.
as well. So if it comes to like, I don't know, looking out for other people's feelings or opinions, I don't think that we do that. If
Mhm.
it's if it comes into conflict with what we think is the right way, um, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. I'm thinking about how we live in an extrovert ideal world. And just, I mean, we could go on and on. Read the book Quiet by Susan Cain. It's a phenomenal book about kind of the power of introverts. But what we see is an extrovert, or what we live in is extrovert ideal world. And where I'm going with that is that whole team environment and how I almost feel a pressure to, I see it in my clients, I see it in myself, and I can kind of see it in what you're saying, like this pressure to have to like working in a team. And you, like, what do you mean you don't like working in a team? Like, that's so selfish or whatever. And that's not true. Like, we need people who can work on their own and work independently. And people who are looking at an organization and putting teams together, if they can see that and see, like, oh, Jaron's going to work by himself and get 10 times more done than this team, and then they can use the information that he's able to collect and the proposals he's able to put together, they get to use that to talk about their team things that they're going to then move forward with. That's a wonderful way to kind of pair those different skills together. So I think being a five and acknowledging and just admitting to yourself, I don't like working in teams, I actually think that's a phenomenal way to move forward in your career and to be able to focus maybe a job search or to focus if you're moving up in your company or around in your company, like how you're going to do that, or even just in entrepreneurship as well, focusing on, as I'm building out my company, how do I make sure that I can still do the majority of work on my own? Does all that resonate?
Yeah, for
That makes
sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know how to tell people when I was interviewing, when I was
sense.
interviewing for work, what do your, coworkers say about you? Or, how do you work well in a team? Like, that kind of thing. I don't know how to tell them, like, I, I, I'm really good by myself.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I don't want to be a part of the team. It's just, I'm going to do my best work
Hmm.
alone. And I don't know why that is. I also saying all this, I might be on the extreme end of the five. I don't know if
Good.
all of us are like this, but
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that we need to just remember when doing any kind of Enneagram stuff. I mean, any personality thing ever, but specifically the Enneagram, is that sometimes these things don't hit the same way, or not all fives think the same, not all twos think the same. Um, but take what you need, leave what you don't. One of my favorite phrases ever.
yeah.
But I think it's so important to really highlight your strengths um in a way that's honest to who you are, but also in a way that doesn't sound uh hmm I can't think of any other word other than bad. But saying it, being honest with an employer, saying, here's my best contribution to a team. It's doing work on my own and then being in the team environment, being more of an observer, seeing how things hit, seeing how things don't hit, and taking in that information so I can then um, move forward understanding those things and with a more well-rounded view of the team and how the team works. Something like that is a way to still honor your own strength of working by your own, but still understanding we have to live in a world where we have to do things that we don't like.
Right.
And I really feel that we need more people who can work independently, because I think sometimes we become a little, this might be a hot take, but we become a little too dependent on people at work. And it's helpful to have those people who can be the example of, oh, look, like he's going off to work for 6 hours by himself and getting all of this done. That's just as valuable as working in a team together, getting something done over those same 6 hours.
You said it, not me.
I am here. I'm a voice for the fives right now. Is there anything that, and it's okay if the answer is no, but is there anything that doesn't resonate with you when you hear stuff about the five?
I'm sure there is. I don't know if you want to pull that book out if you have.
Yeah.
It was like one of the last things that you said that I was like, okay, maybe I don't see myself resonating with any of that.
Mhm. Preoccupied with their thoughts and imaginary constructs, they become detached yet high strung and intense. They typically have problems with isolation, eccentricity, and nihilism.
Yeah, I'm isolated. I'm eccentric, but I'm not high strung. I don't think.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't let that. Yeah, I don't let anything that's going on in my own little world, affect the reality that I know I live in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not high strung. I'm pretty go with the flow, I guess. So that's one thing, and I
Yeah.
didn't know that about fives that they're usually high strung.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of exactly how you just worded it, of you know what's going on in your own world, but you also are aware of the world around you. Well, I maybe with the fives, when they become high strung, is when they don't have that second part of understanding the world around them. So then they get really high strung that not everybody's operating within their rules of their inner worlds. And that's where that can kind of come out.
I could see where that would come into play.
Yeah. There's another, I'm like moving this book around so much. There's another thing I wanted to read. So I mentioned this on the episode last week, but the Enneagram has 9 levels within each type. So 1 being the healthiest level, 9 being the least healthy.
Right.
But I'm going to read level 1 to you because I always think it's nice to hear about that. So at their healthiest, fives let go of the belief that they are separate from the environment and an outside observer. Oh my gosh, we were just talking about that. Um, and thus able to confidently engage in life. They also paradoxically achieve their basic desire to be capable and competent and able to live in the world. They then become clear-minded, knowing, profound, and compassionate. That's so nice.
That is
Uh,
nice.
yeah. It's sometimes we harp a lot on the seemingly tougher qualities of the types and forget like every type has, I mean, if you want to get into the kind of like woo woo talk of it, the essence that emerges, I don't know, it kind of gets into all that stuff. But let me ask about, as you've worked through being a five and continue working through it, how does your relationship with the Lord come into that?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, well, like I said, we're book smart, right?
Mm,
Um,
yes.
so I grew up Pentecostal,
Mm-hmm.
so I've seen a lot of Holy Spirit filled dancing and yelling and
Mm-hmm.
all that. And to me, I see that, and I that is not my relationship with the Lord. My relationship with the Lord is in the book. It's in the text.
Yeah.
It's journaling or writing or reading devotionals or reading books about the books or reading commentaries, that kind of thing. I'll never forget. Uh, I had an Old Testament survey class in college,
Mm-hmm.
um, and my professor there, I felt the Lord's presence in that class all the
Yeah.
time because he was pulling stuff out of the text that I had never seen before or heard before, and that's where I really found the most
Mm.
satisfaction in my relationship with God, is like learning that this is what is true, this is the truth that's written, and being able to see that in my own reality. It's not just written text, or it's not just dancing or singing. It's like this is the truth. That's
Mhm.
where it kind of became more real for me.
Yeah. Oh wow, that makes so much sense. As soon as you said book smart, I was like, oh, well, I got a book for you.
That's right.
Uh,
Right.
and um, oh, that's interesting. How, I guess, when we're thinking of identity, when it comes to, because we can, you know, as humans, we're tempted to find identity in everything else, even the Enneagram, especially the Enneagram. And when you're
Yeah.
thinking about the Enneagram as kind of a tool to understand your identity, as your identity is founded in Christ, um, what has been kind of freeing about that? Not even using the Enneagram, but just using any tool and using scripture as well to become more accepting of your own type, because I imagine there was a time where you maybe were battling your type or maybe weren't accepting of it. um, so how has using tools around you helped you just live more freely as a five?
Hmm. Yeah. Good question. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think I have a problem with my type.
Mm-hmm.
I'm obviously self-critical. I think I think that might be a five trait as well, because we might hold ourselves to higher standards, um, and kind of beat ourselves up when we're not as capable as we want to be or as competent as we want to be. Um, but as far as finding ways to circumvent those self doubts, I think I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I Yeah, I don't know, other than, like we've talked about, being able to experience reality and going outside of my little bubble and talking to people.
Mhm.
Finding that help. I guess that would be where I need to work a little bit better to find that freedom,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. The It sounds like the stretch goal of a five is to leave your inner world, go talk to people. And it doesn't only have to be mentors, just people who might be on your team at work, understand how they're doing, approaching the same task as you, or um, talking to people who might have a different approach to their faith or whatever it is. just to learn more about those perspectives, because ultimately that actually is in alignment with the five, because it's that investigation. It's just
Right.
investigating what other people are doing.
Yeah. And I actually, you mind if I read something?
Yeah.
I have this screenshot from a while ago, because I was in a group, and I was like, I know that this is a type 5 trait. I can't explain this feeling that I'm feeling right now. So I kind of did some research
Mm-hmm.
while I was in a social setting, of course.
Yep. Right.
And I found this thing and I highlighted it because I was like, this is exactly how I feel. But I kind of want to read it because it's, it, it makes us sound, bad, when
Yeah.
we're in these social settings. So, um, it says fives trust their own minds and feel little need to adjust their beliefs to accommodate the opinions of the majority. These are opinions that fives often feel are shallow or stupid. Fives often have little capacity for small talk, and they find most social interactions draining. When required to socialize with those they find uninteresting, almost everyone that is, fives frequently find a way to slip out the side door when no one is looking. The social problem for fives revolves around the fact that they find it difficult to reach out to others even when they very much want to form a social connection.
Wow.
So that is 100% how I feel. Like I want to get out of my own world. I want to reach, I want to have that social connection.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard when, you know, apparently everyone I talk to, I find uninteresting. And that's as terrible as that sounds, like, it's really a hard thing to try to empathize or, do that small talk that's necessary to form those deep relationships because and that could be with a coworker or a mentor or what have you. But yeah, going out of your way to have that small talk, like small talk seems so unimportant to me
Yeah.
and to us as fives. But it's like a necessary first step to form those deeper relationships. Um, and we all want deeper relationships,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
uh,
Wow. Oh my gosh. Again, I have so many thoughts about that, because first, I think that's going to be really important for people to hear. Oh, I just gotta trying to reconnect.
oh, me
Uh,
too.
okay. Are we good?
Yeah, you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Um, so I think it's going to be so important for people to hear what you just read. I think a lot of people will feel seen by that, because that's such a specific way or such a descriptive way to describe. That doesn't really make sense. It's a good way to describe a
Yeah.
specific feeling. And I, I I always think it's important to be able to name those things. I also think that still is a wonderful quality to want to just you're trying to have deep connections with people. That's something that is very important to you. And, like you were saying, the key, one of the necessary steps is that first, that general social connection, then moving into the deep connection. But not always.
Mm.
Not always. And it
Me
is
too.
funny the way that they worded it. It almost makes it sound bad, but I don't think that it is. I think that it's really honoring the power and the value of deep connection, and also thinking about it in a creative way of like, is there a way to do this without having to do the stupid social small talk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're saying that some people can just jump right into the deep end and
Hmm.
talk about what we think is the interesting stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm also thinking, as you're reading that, I'm like, I think I have a lot more five in me than I realized, because that's resonating with me a lot. And it also reminds me of the path of integration and like integration, and then the path of stress. So your path of integration is to an 8, and then your path of stress is to a 7. And sevens are more, and I'll learn more about this when we're doing our 7 episode too. But from what I understand, sevens are more of those social people. They're jumping from those more social connections that maybe aren't as deep. Right now, of course, they still have deep connections, but they find more value in those social connections. So it
Mm.
makes sense as that is your path of stress, that you're just not vibing with that at all. And maybe if that is something that's happening in your life, it's because you're in a stressful time, and it's not as honoring to your true nature
Hmm.
as a 5.
That's interesting.
Yeah. the paths of integration and stress are very interesting.
Yeah.
And then my path of integration is to a 7. So all of the connections kind of make my mind spin sometimes. But I want to know, like, as you're thinking or talking to your younger self in your career, like we talked about earlier, but then also to anybody listening who is a 5 or maybe knows a 5 very intimately, because that's the only way you're going to know a 5, does it get better when you're kind of struggling with the things that a 5 might struggle through, especially the fear of being incompetent or not being valuable? Does it get better?
Yeah. Yeah. It gets better. And it's going to get better for me, even better.
Yeah.
Because I'm still working with the feeling competent and, feeling self-assured. That's going to be not a constant struggle, I don't think, but an ongoing one for sure. But yeah, if you do manage to step out of that isolation, and you do manage to make those deeper connections that, we were talking about, then I think having people to talk to, having somebody to ground you in reality and, take you out of that, we always have messages swirling in our heads, you're not good enough, you can do this to be better, that kind of thing. But if you have somebody who's telling you, the more encouraging things, that helps to ground. So I think, getting out of that isolation and finding those connections is super important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great piece of very practical advice to take. And then also, our episode 3, we had Kelsey's friend Barrett on, and at this point in the conversation, maybe it was another point, but his advice to 3s was to get married, because you have that person to I forget exactly how he said it, but it was funny. And then in Kelsey's episode, the 4, she said something was very helpful for her was to get married. And and it also sounds like that might be a strand of your advice as well, having that person who can take you out of your bubble and can kind of ground you in the reality outside of your own world. How beneficial that is to have the person, and you can find that if you're not married too.
Yes, that's what I want to. Yeah, that's what I want to steer to. I'm not saying marriage is the only way, but it definitely helps.
Yeah,
but I'm not good at proffering advice as a 5 either, because I'm like, no, whatever, you do you, that kind of thing. But
Oh, that's so funny, because my one nature, I'm like, there's a right way to do it. Here's what it is, and you should do that because it's the right way.
Yeah, right.
So that's where we differ. In one of the ways. But this conversation has been so lovely. I truly believe that so many things that you shared they're gonna resonate with our 5s who are listening. Great. And I hope they're listening out there, because I'm trying to tie it back to the listening to a podcast as a solo exercise that you can do. So
I love a podcast.
Yeah. It's a way to like experience connection without having to do the social connection thing. So I have a feeling we've got some 5s out there. So or if you know a 5, send them this episode as a little gift that you're thinking about them. But Jaron, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience as a 5, and helping other people feel seen in that too. Like I said, I pray that this is helpful. I know that this is helpful for somebody out there. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Okay, good. Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. To get an even more meaningful head start into your calling, head to thecalledcareer.com, where my fellow career coach Audrey and I have created a whole suite of free resources and tools to help you get clear and get a job today. For those who are definitely ready to land a job or start a business in the next 6 to 12 months, we're here to help you biblically and practically discern your calling through coaching, reflection, and deep market research. Identify the job that's aligned with it, even if you currently have no idea what you want. Rebrand your resume and LinkedIn to translate your background to appeal to your future boss. P.S. We take this off your plate and do this for you. Also, we'll teach you how to land referrals and get attention from leadership through networking. Again, if that makes you nervous, we have these emails and LinkedIn messages literally written for you, so you don't have to sweat. We're also here to give you unlimited interview practice so you're prepared to address every elephant in the room and knock selling yourself out of the park. Then we'll round out with helping you negotiate your salary so you land thousands more. Just so you know, recent clients have gotten $8,000 to $50,000 salary increases, even though they were totally non-traditional candidates. That's because we specialize in helping non-traditional career pivoters land jobs they're ecstatic to serve in. It takes work, but we're here to see you through until the end, when we're celebrating that day that you send me an email in all caps and you say, Kelsey, I got the job. Then you could be on the podcast. But I'll be here until then, keeping you accountable and encouraged by meeting with you literally until you land the job you want, even if that's up to 6 months from now within our program. Apply to join at thecalledcareer.com, and I'll see you next week here at Answer the Call. Bye for now.